realfaith.org.au.
He had mentioned he had a bit of a sketchy past, didn't exactly say what exactly. And in our conversation, he did say, I have done some bad things previously, but working with you and seeing the generosity we were offering at our shelter or at the drop-in, he wanted to change his ways or be a better person.
Welcome to Real Faith, conversations about the impact faith has on our lives and the challenges we go through, helping us today and giving us hope for tomorrow. That's real people, real life, and real faith.
Well, today we have part 2 of our conversation with Gloria Anderson, who was abducted in her home in 2011 by a boarder who she let stay at a granny flat on the back of her property. This began a 3-day horrific ordeal that included being mocked for her faith and enduring extreme physical torment. Gloria is now seeking to help others who have gone through similar traumatic experiences. Last time, she shared her background growing up in India in a family that regularly helped people by having them stay in their home. Also, she shared that she always had a heart for helping marginalized people, just like her role model, Mother Teresa. Today, Gloria will share more of her life journey and the events leading up to her abduction. And parents, once again, we want to remind you that because of the adult themes that will be discussed, today's program is not recommended for children. Also, the topics of violence and assault have the potential to trigger painful memories in those who have had similar experiences. So, some adults may prefer to avoid today's program as well. Once again, Gloria, along with her friend Priscilla Chandra, are joining me in our Melbourne studios. And we'll pick up the story as Gloria is in her late teens in India. Meanwhile, you're growing as a Christian.
Yes.
And you decided to get involved in ministry.
Yes.
With Youth with a Mission,
yes.
Otherwise known as YWAM.
My mom was doing CGDS herself. She was doing...
What is that?
It is a course in YWAM. It's called Discipleship Training School.
Okay.
So my mom did that. While she was doing her outreach, I joined her.
Okay. Oh, your mother was already a part of Youth with a Mission.
Yeah. So while she was doing, I joined her.
Mm-hmm.
I guess because I was the youngest out of 7 siblings.
Mm-hmm.
So I was 15, I think.
So why did you want to be in ministry?
I should say I was sent there.
Oh, you didn't have a choice.
I didn't have a choice. I was sent there, but I think it was, in hindsight, it was the best thing in so many ways. At that time, it fitted that period of my time in that life.
And on a practical level, they have discipleship training classes.
Yeah, the training school.
So you can learn how to grow and learn the Bible? Yes,
which I did, and it was some of my best time during worship, I think, were in YWAM while doing DTS. Mm-hmm. I learned a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I learned a lot. YWAM, I spent about 5 years in YWAM. And also, while I was in YWAM, we obviously moved places in YWAM. There were different places in YWAM across India. So it was not just in one city. It was I went up north, then I went down, central. So I moved around a fair bit within the organization. And in one of those moves, that's where I met my future husband. Now we're separated, however, sadly. And then we were friends for a bit of a time. Between that period of time, I went back home. And during that time, I was also being, my mom, it's part of the cultural thing where a girl often is a liability. So my mom, her way of, lighten her load was to have me married off.
So your mother wanted you to get married?
Yes. My mother wanted me to get married. I was arranged to be married to somebody where this gentleman obviously even had a conversation with my mom. I refused that proposal. one of the ways of dealing with that, my mom sent me to live with my sister. In that meantime, I did message all my friends requesting them to pray, saying, I don't want to get married at this young age, probably wait a while.
How old were you?
I was 18.
Okay.
About to turn 19. And then at that time, my future husband, he messaged saying, I would like to come and visit and come and help out at the school, which made sense that we always have people come and visiting and helping at the school, being the area it is. And that's when I had no idea he liked me or
and he's from Australia?
He's from Australia, so I had no indication. So and so he tried to follow the traditional protocol and ask the family. And I initially freaked out. I was like, I said no to one marriage proposal. How am I going to say yes to the other one? This does not make sense. But he actually had a dream of my past, which I hadn't shared. So that it at that time made sense. And that obviously confirmed, I prayed into it, and then I said yes. And we were married pretty much very, very soon. In about 3 months, we were married.
And that explains how you eventually end up in Australia.
Yes. We stayed in YWAM for a period of time after that, and then came for a visit here in Australia. And that's where, while we were here, I fell pregnant with our first child. And obviously, this was the first grandchild from his side of the family, so they wanted the grandchild to be born here. So we had to go through all that process, traveling back and forth. And we had our first child here. And then we moved back for a period of time. And then we came back in 2004 with my permanent residency. And I was pregnant with my second child by then.
Okay. And both of you, your husband at that time, now ex-husband, both you and he had a heart for doing ministry and helping out marginalized people in society?
We always did.
Yeah.
He was actually studying community development at the time, and that was also, I guess, a main common theme we had together. We both wanted to serve the people and help the people in slums.
Going back to your liking Mother Teresa and what she was doing, so this ties right in with all that. Yeah,
so we really wanted to do that, and we thought we would come to Australia, have used this as a home base, and then go back and serve. But also, while we were waiting here, we wanted to continue serving, not just because we were here for a period of time. We didn't want to just waste that, just doing nothing. That's when, not long after our daughter was born, we were looking of ways to serve the community, and that's where we found a drop-in center in Dandenong, and that's where we served. We actually literally just walked in, and
what kind of a ministry is that?
It's a drop-in center.
What does that mean?
Where people can just come in for a free meal. They can get food parcels. There's always free bread and other facilities that's provided there. We also provide free laundry services. There's a van that comes that provide free laundry services. You can have showers. People who are struggling to have showers. Once a month we get a optometrist. Do eye checkups and get really cheap.
Wow, just really helping people out.
There's a nurse that comes weekly dealing with homeless people, so with medical needs. There's all sorts of services. There's counseling. There's a variety range of services that this drop-in provides. So
this is scratching all the itches, so to speak, of your desire to help marginalized people in society.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think this is about when my wife Gina and I met you.
Yes.
At the same church that we were attending at that time.
Yes. Actually, I had a dream about this particular place, and where I felt like this drop-in center was like a lighthouse in that town. Was where people are being drawn, and we work very closely with the council. We work very closely with a lot of other government agencies and providing facilities. All through COVID, we were one of the agencies that were open and providing food parcels for people when they were in lockdown.
Yeah. So this is a ministry that you continue to be involved in to this day.
Yes. I'm on the board at the moment.
This is exactly what you enjoy doing.
Definitely. I love people. Love human beings in general. As much.
Despite everything you've gone through,
Yes.
you still have a heart for helping people.
Yes. Because the way I see people is as messed up as we are, God loves us regardless. And his heart is more for the poor, more heart for the needy. I often say if Jesus came today, would he be sitting in Hillsong or would he be sitting in the drop-in center with us? Nothing against Hillsong, but...
I take your point, yeah.
But...
He would be with the marginalized in society.
And I often say I'd rather be where Jesus would be. And... yeah, definitely. That's where I feel most comfortable at, and helping and serving people.
Yeah. And that started with just being at the drop-in center, but then it started to expand to your home as well.
Yes. We all, I guess that whole childhood open house living sort of carried with me and also influenced the way we had a house. And we always wanted an open house. We had discussed it. And then one day, one of the regulars at the drop-in center, he just came in. He was not well. His feet absolutely infected. And it had gone so bad that he obviously didn't go to the doctors for treatment. He didn't want to go to the hospital. He didn't want to go to the clinic. And his feet was just oozing out with pus and stuff. And so he came to our house. And so I washed his feet, tried to clean it. Took me about...
You were Mother Teresa at that point. Literally.
I don't know.
But I mean, that's really... Seriously, though, that's really putting your faith into action.
At that time, I guess that's where my mom's side or my dad's side, the medical side of me, sort of, passed down, or what I had observed from my parents sort of came down. It took me about 4 buckets of water to wash it till the water was clear. But it was painful. But I could not let him just go out in the street. And that was one day where I had to ask... we have to, I think so, let him stay in our place. And I remember discussing that with my husband then. Are we okay letting him stay? What if something happens to our kids? What if something happens to us? What if we get robbed? Are we still willing to have this person in our house? And we prayed that night, and the answer was yes. The answer was yes. And so I barely slept that night, but that was a beginning of us taking people into our house on regular basis. We took in couples. At one time, we had a couple with 2 dogs and 2 cats, and plus my cat. And
so not just taking people in at this point, yes.
Yes. Wow. We had a whole zoo.
Wow. So your faith was being tested in more ways than one, it sounds like.
Sometimes, yes.
But that's
we had a
the
full
heart
house
that you had.
Yes, and that's where I felt most comfortable. Probably not the right word I'm using here.
A lot of people would not be comfortable with that. I mean, I have to be honest. I don't know that I would be comfortable with somebody just off the street staying in our home.
That's where I would say probably not comfortable. That's where I felt. That's where I needed to be. That's what I was called to be to be and to do, and to be there for the people.
Yeah.
Regardless of who or what background they came from.
That was your conviction.
Yes, definitely.
And you didn't just believe it in theory, you put your faith into action.
Yes. I think that also attributed a lot from my childhood, because I saw the conflicting theology at the childhood from my mom's church, and I was so adamant to practice out my faith as I read and understood the Word of God.
Not just say it in theory.
Yes.
And do something else, but actually...
To act it out.
Yeah.
And to what that really meant.
All Our guest today is once again Gloria Anderson, who was abducted from her home by a person who she was trying to help in 2011. We'll hear more of Gloria's story when we return right here on Real Faith.
The Word for Today is Australia's most widely read daily devotional,
designed to give you practical teaching to keep you focused on your relationship with Jesus.
Read it online or subscribe to the free printed edition
At thewordfortoday.com.au.
You're listening to Real Faith, conversations with real people about how God works in their lives. If you want to know more about integrating faith into your life, our website is realfaith.org.au. That's realfaith.org.au. Just go to the website and you'll find helpful articles about the impact faith can have on your life. And you can listen to past programs about the impact faith has had on others. Once again, that's realfaith.org.au.
Welcome back. I'm Eric Scadabo, and today, once again, I'm chatting with Gloria Anderson, who was abducted from her home in 2011 by a boarder who she let stay at a granny flat on the back of her property. We heard before the break how Gloria always had a desire to help downtrodden people in society, and she came from a family in India that regularly had people stay in their home. Now we'll hear what happened next in Gloria's life. Okay, Gloria, at this point in your story, things are going well. You're helping out at a drop-in center, which is basically a place where marginalized people, homeless people can get help.
Yep.
You shared about that powerful story of washing the feet of a homeless person. His name was Warren, is that right?
Yep. Yeah.
And then he went on to actually live on your property, is that right?
Yes. Temporarily, for couple of period of time, because he was homeless, he was living, because we were living in a flat, and so there was an area near a place, had a little shed, so he would come and sleep there occasionally. Then we realized that was not a place for somebody to stay. We actually moved to a place where it actually had a granny flat, where he could have a decent bed, and Warren actually improved a lot while he was with us, and would occasionally, he struggled with alcoholism due to depression and all sorts of stuff. And somehow in that meantime, we also managed to get in touch with his sister and his family. I believe his son came and visited him as well. And we moved to this place where he actually stayed. So altogether, he lived with us for
on your property.
On our property in the granny flat at the back for about 3.5 years. So, yeah. And
you eventually led him to Christ?
Yes, I did have moments where I shared, and he struggled, but I did lead him to Christ at one point.
So you're helping people?
Yes.
I mean, it's got to be very gratifying. This is what you wanted to do from a young age.
Yes.
Ever since learning about Mother Teresa.
Yeah.
So it's all happening. You are helping the marginalized and the down and outers in society.
Yeah.
But then things kind of took a turn for the worse.
Yes. In that course of time, unfortunately, me and my husband, we separated. We went our different ways, but because our kids were very young, and I'm not the sort of a person who kind of can hold grudges for too long. I might be angry for a week, probably. You might see it on my face. You could probably read it. That's about my level of anger probably that carries. So we have maintained to be good friends.
To this day?
To this day, yes. And my mother-in-law still comes and drops in for a coffee or a tea. We still have a good relationship with my in-laws.
And you still work together at the drop-in center?
We did for a period of time, and we continued serving there for, I believe he stayed on for another probably 3 years or so, but I continued working
to this
there.
day?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, that takes us up to 2011.
Yes.
When unfortunately the abduction occurs.
Yes. Warren left, and not long after Warren left, just about that time, there was another volunteer at our center where he was looking for a place. So I guess I thought that was timely. So and he was struggling at his place, and he didn't want to stay. Apparently, it was not safe. So I offered him to come and move in to the granny flat eventually. So
And that was Darren.
yes, that was Darren.
Now, when I heard that you were abducted, I have to admit, the first thing that came to my mind was, one of the persons that you were helping, a homeless person who maybe had mental illness, was the person who abducted you.
Yes.
But that wasn't the case.
No,
it was
wasn't.
actually somebody who was helping,
Yes.
a helper, a volunteer,
Yes.
who was helping homeless people.
Yes, he was a volunteer. He was a volunteer, and he helped. He got sent actually by Centrelink to first initially get some assistance for himself, get a food parcel. He had lost his job or something. It was in transition in between jobs. He came to the center, and then in that time he offered to come, and he said, while I'm still finding another job, can I come and volunteer? And we offered him the place. So he was volunteering. He helped out in the kitchen. He helped out, sort of like a security guard. Apparently he had done that job previously in Sydney.
So you had no idea, there was no indication that this was a mentally unstable person.
Definitely not. Definitely not.
What were your general impressions of him?
General impression of him was he was just a big, happy guy. And that's how...
Fun to be around?
Definitely. Always cracking jokes, always laughing. And that's how everybody in the center and even where we were living, that's how people remember him. He was just this big, happy guy. Almost what we often say as, a big teddy bear sort of a personality.
So well-liked.
Yes, definitely.
But you didn't know he had a criminal past.
He had mentioned he had a bit of a sketchy past, didn't exactly say what exactly. And in our conversation, he did say, I have done some bad things previously, but I want to have a fresh start. I want to start new. I want to put those things behind, and working with you and seeing the generosity we were offering at our shelter or at the drop-in, he wanted to change his ways or be a better person. And he often mentioned those sentiments.
So you're thinking, okay, this is somebody who's had a bad past. We know about bad pasts.
Yes, we all
but has
do.
turned a new leaf
Yes.
and is trying to have a better future.
Yes. So with that knowledge already had, and as Christians, and I think so that this conversation I often have with myself as well. We all have a bad past in the sense we all are sinners. And
We're all sinners, fall short of the glory of God.
yes, and as a Christian, if I can't extend grace, then what's the use of me being a Christian? And that's the whole crux of what holds what I do and how I see my faith as. And so obviously not knowing what exactly he had done or wasn't aware of exactly what had happened, he moved in. And so
to the granny flat on the back of your property. So
Yes.
not actually in your house.
There he was absolutely fine. We, my kids absolutely loved him. He played with my kids, or even walked them to school occasionally. If there were, clashing times or whatever. And he absolutely became a family member. And
Were there other people around?
by that time, eventually down the road, at the end, it was just him. So he stayed with me for about 8 months. But as soon as the last boarder left, his attitude changed. He was showing interest in me, and then at the same time, I would say inappropriate advances as well, even though I tried to reject. And then
You were making it plain that you weren't interested.
Yes. There were a whole lot of reasons. The biggest one for me was the faith. It's like he was not a Christian.
Yeah. And meanwhile, emotionally, you're going through a divorce.
Yes.
Separation. You're in turmoil.
Yes. Going through divorce, going through also not just the part of the divorce, but also dealing with the whole burden of me being the first family member in my whole family to be technically divorced.
Yeah.
And carrying that burden as well. And that was massive. And so I had to actually announce it in the family saying, I do not want to hear anything negative. We are both committed to look after our children. That's the main thing. But because it's a taboo, and at that time, even now it is.
With your Indian heritage.
Yes. And
Divorce just isn't done.
Just doesn't happen. They'll stay separated for years. They'll die separated, but they'll never have a paper document that says divorce. And I was the first one in the family.
So you're going through a lot at this time.
Yes. So that I was dealing with all of that. I had separated, and I was my least of my worries was some other guy interested in me. So
And
there
you
was a
made
lot
that plainly
happening.
known. You weren't interested.
Yes.
But he didn't take no for an answer.
No, he didn't. He did, for a period of time, he did say, okay, fine, whatever. He backed off for a period of time after his first advances, should I say, first major advances for a month or 2-3 months. And then one day after a birthday party we had gone for one of our other volunteers, we came home and he snapped.
Well, that was part 2 of my conversation with Gloria Anderson, who's sharing her life journey and the events leading up to her abduction in 2011 by a boarder who she let stay at a granny flat on the back of her property. Also in the studio was Gloria's friend Priscilla Chandra, who is providing moral support as Gloria recalls these painful events. And I have to say that there are many tragic, heartbreaking aspects to Gloria's story, but the one that sticks out the most in my mind at this point is how her good intentions to help people were being taken advantage of and were being used against her. Jesus warns us that the thief, or in other words, the devil, comes only to steal, kill, and destroy. But I have come that they may have life and have it more abundantly. Also, Jesus warns, I am sending you out like sheep among wolves, therefore be as shrewd as snakes and as innocent as doves. Sadly, we have an adversary, the devil, who prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. So we need to be alert to his deceptive and evil ways at all times. Well, thank you so much for joining us for part 2 of Gloria's story, and we invite you to join us again next time for more of her story in part 3. Until then, I'm Eric Scatabo. So long, and God bless.
You've been listening to Real Faith, and if you have any questions or comments, you can send us a message through our website, realfaith.org.au. That's realfaith.org.au.
Real Faith is a production of Vision Christian Media.
This program is a production of Vision Christian Media.
To find out more about us, see vision.org.au.